Very well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Today I've got a very familiar face with me, somebody who's done everything pretty much in cricket. Pretty much, Bumble, yes. Umpiring, coaching, playing, and a commentator who everyone knows and loves. David Bumble Lloyd.
Well, there's either you or me has brought this rain here today. I've come from Yorkshire, you've come up from Liverpool somewhere, so there's a bit of rain around, which is it's a bit sad because they both want to play here. They want to play.
Let's hope it clears, Bumble, and we get a good match.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I want to talk to you today, Bumble, is about a left-arm pace bowler who you know very well, Wasim Akram. So we're doing a Wasim Akram special with Bumble. When was the first time you saw him?
It was on a double wicket competition in the Emirates for a Pakistan cricketer, opening batter. It was his benefit. It was a double wicket competition. Imran was there and this young left armer, and I was there with Graham Fowler. So it was the year I'd retired, so about 1983, and we saw, and he was still here, Fowler was still here, and he sort of rang back and said, take a look at this guy. And Imran, of course, was pushing him as well. And I can't remember the name of the Pakistan opening batter who played for Cumberland when I played. No, it might come to me. He was a batsman, opening batter.
So he obviously impressed you then, when you saw him. How old would he have been then? He was a young teenager?
He might have been very early 20s, but
right.
Very tall, very slim, very athletic. And, you know, as we grew to find out, you know, you hit a cricket ball a long way and ball quickly.
Yeah.
And honed his skills. I mean, there'd be lots to talk about with Akram from his time here. And if I get asked that many times, what's your all-time world 11? Now I'll start at number 8. I'll start at 8, Akram, and work up and down from there.
Yeah.
And nobody would ever say you can't have him at number 8. Everybody will say, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So he came over to Lancashire,
Yeah.
still quite raw then, played a bit of international cricket by then.
Yeah.
What are your first memories of him?
Well, when you go and have nets, the players constantly talk about it. The coach says, no, balls are terrible, balls are shocking, we can't play with these. He'd go into the bag and come out with the roughest ball he could find, real old ball, and just reverse swing. Whilst all the others want a brand new ball. And then he started working. He did work with Glenn Chappell. When I say work, just chatting, as bowlers would do. Ian Austin, Peter Martin, and they'd sort of talk about the position of the ball and the seam and the swing and the shine, just as you'd expect them to do, but being led by like the daddy of them all. And his nickname in the changing room was King. Everybody called him King. He was coming, and he had a great, wicked sense of humour. Wicked sense of humour. We're playing a big game here, packed, one-day match, and he's fielding down in front of the point. He's fielding down there, and he's took a wicket or two, and all the crowd are waving and shouting, Wasim, Wasim, Wasim. Get another wicket at the other end, and Neil Fairbrother, who's one of his best friends, Neil said, Was, when you go down there and they're all shouting your name, give them a wave. To which Was says, I don't know any of them.
And I mean, he formed a formidable partnership with Patrick Patterson, Bumble, didn't he? And you know, that was back in the days where two overseas players could play. Can't have been many county batsmen wanting to face them two.
Who is it? I've spoke to somebody this week who said I was coming back from injury and had a game in the twos. He said, you'd think, you'll knock it about a bit. He says, Patterson and Akram, both playing. So that would be a shock to anybody. When I was umpiring, I started umpiring in second 11 matches. And I umpired Patrick Patterson, and he was rapid bowler. Yeah.
I mean, Wasim seemed to settle into the life in Manchester and the Lancashire dressing room so quickly as well, didn't he?
That would be so important, and he followed in the footsteps of Clive Lloyd, Farouk Engineer, and Wasim, like those two, has a house down the road, still has it, just has a house down here, and would visit 2 or 3 times, meet up with Neil and 1 or 2 others, and so he very quickly. But the other thing, they're a great set of lads. They'll mix in. They mix in straight away with the dressing room, and make people feel really at home, and almost like the Lancashire way, fish and chips and stuff like that. And also, he was great friends with the groundsman, who's no longer with us, Peter Marron. Pete Marron was a lad who was well connected, if you know what I mean, in Manchester, and they got on really well. It was lovely. Pete Marron was lovely, and it was a good mix with fair brother Marron, Akram.
He must have put in some fantastic performances over the years, probably too many to remember, but if there was one performance by Wasim Akram that you remember that sticks in your mind, which one would it be?
Well, I wouldn't know the exact match, but it was against Derbyshire, and we were away from home. And they're winning. And he looked at the ball. He said, "I'll bowl." And the rest is history. We win. He took 5-0. Just bowled them out of this. He looked at the ball, "I'll bowl." And it'd have been one-way traffic for Derbyshire. But he turned the game. The thing about that type of bowler, and Wakar units are very similar, turn a game on its head. Just turn a game on its head. And the other is that the batters know that there's a spectre. I don't know when he's coming, but he's coming.
It's in the back of their mind then, isn't it?
In your mind all the time. You've got somebody like one of them two. And if you're picking a World 11, you won't go far wrong if you put the pair of them in.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Wakar joining Surrey and that long run, and that slightly slingy action, and that in-ducker that just crushed everybody's toes. And Wasim was exactly the same, slightly taller. Wasim slightly taller and a quicker arm. Hardly used his front arm, Wasim, whereas you're always told to get yourself up here like that. No, he got it to about there, but and he used to get groin injuries.
Yes.
Because his legs were splayed. When he landed, his back leg is pointing backwards and his front leg's pointing forwards, so that's a hell of a strain on your groin. And that's, if he got an injury, he'd get a groin injury. Yeah.
But I guess players like that, you don't need to coach them that much.
No,
because you know, if you try and change them and make them more technically correct, you lose that spark.
It's the wrong thing to say that. I coached Wasim Akram. He knew what he was doing actually. He had a good idea. I'll tell you a funny story. He turned up, he wanted to come in, and he would be one of them. He'd say, "I'll bowl for half an hour, or I'll bowl for an hour." Right. He turned up in a pair of jeans, on a day off. One of a ball, a little bag of balls. He brought this little bloke with him. I thought, who's it? Anyway, he put pads on this little chap, and I only watched for a few minutes. I did something else. And he's bowling off his foot, and this lad had absolutely no idea. He looked like he'd never held a bat in his life. And I said, who is this bloke? He said, "You're going to hurt him." He said, "He helps in the house." And he was there to throw the ball back. When he hits the back of the net, he just threw it back.
Right.
Yeah. And he were in a pair of jeans. Yeah.
And I mean, you still keep in touch with Wasim now?
I was with him, I was commentating with him in mid-January to mid-February. I'm Wakar, Arbajan, Azharuddin, Ian Bishop, Simon Dool. We had a good crew out on that International League T20. So Wasim and Wakar were part of the commentary team. Yeah, it was good.
And finally, Bumble, you say that he'd make any World 11 of yours, Wasim Akram. What was so special about him as a cricketer?
I always look at anybody like that, and I look at number 6. So my method would be, I look at number 1's Akram, I put him in. Now I need a wicket keeper. Now I need an all-rounder at number 6 who bowls and bats. But he'd turn the game on its head. So what I'm looking for, who can change the game. I'm not bothered anybody that's stats driven, you know, and scoring lovely 200s. Hang on, you only drew. I want somebody to change the game, to flip it on its head. Somebody like Ben Stokes in present day, flip a game on its head. And so that why I do that is I think that's what the public want to see.
And he could do that with
Did he
bat
turn
or ball.
turn it round?
And those sort of cricketers, Bumble, you just find geniuses and, you know, once in a generation cricketers, aren't they?
Yeah, Viv Richards, Brian Lara. And it's a good comparison if you look at, say, Sachin Tendulkar and Brian Lara. You want them both in your team, but if you only need to have one, of them two, now that is a hell of a debate anyway, because it'll be 50-50. You know, people will be split. If you want mine, I'm having Brian Lara. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's David Bumble Lloyd speaking about the one and only Wasim Akram. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for your time, Bumble.
Thanks, sir.